Hi, you're listening to Sharing Values Across Borders, a podcast featuring Christoph Stuckelberger as he recounts the first 20 years of the Globethics story.
And access to knowledge is really at the heart of my commitment of Globethics, in Globethics. And I take an example. Even some years back, I was in Nairobi. My good friend, Professor Jesse Mugambi, I can write the name. He was a full-time professor at the university in Nairobi. He is a famous teacher. We went together to the UN bookshop in Nairobi because the United Nations has a big campus, UN campus, UNEP headquarters is there, and so on. We went to the UN bookshop, and I bought a book, and for $50 or $70, and I was happy to find it there, and then I saw that Jesse was very silent, and I said, "Aren't you not interested in this and this?" And that he said, very shy, "I'm sorry, but $50, that's not possible for me." Excluded in my own city, the UN, for the professor, and he's not a poor professor, he's a professor, but I cannot buy a book for $50 in my own city. That's the reality. So this is so heartbreaking, when you, and this is again and again. So that's why I'm so committed to this book projects, and I know so many who never could publish their PhD, as I said, for the same reason, because the big publishers, they ask an amount of money which is still simply not feasible. So, but then, of course, we try to find the roots, and one of the roots is then the financial currency architecture around the world. Why is somebody who works day and night, 60 hours a week, as somebody here? I also work 50 hours or 60 hours a week. And somebody in DRC, in Kinshasa, or in Nairobi, or in Burma is doing the same and cannot live from it. And then we see that the currency is one of the issues. And I must say that this is then so much geopolitics that it's very difficult to influence. What we can do with our limited means is to raise awareness that we cannot only do book aid one by one. That is, of course, the immediate what we can do. But we need to reach also this systemic level. And so there are different ways of solutions. A colleague of mine, he for example, he said we need a new basket of the lead currency, and we take the chicken egg as the basis, because around the world everybody has chicken or agriculture. So the value of a chicken egg could be the basis. Of course, the specialists were laughing and say that's not realistic. But I mean, it's just an example of somebody, an economist, who tried to find solutions for this inequality. Then we have we invited a specialist here in Geneva, Miret Zaki. She is an economist, and she wrote the book La Fin du Dollar, The End of the Dollar, saying that the dollar as lead currency is the issue and cannot be fair. So we need to replace the dollar by a basket, and that's not only her, she said. Others are saying the same. We need a new basket of currencies to be together the lead currency. There are efforts on that. geopolitically, there is another trend now to say China and the BRICS countries together, they create an alternative to the dollar, and they started to pay themselves not in dollar, but in other currencies like the RMB from China. So there are geopolitical shifts in that question, and I mention that because between that level, high level of currency policies, and the student or the professor in a specific university, there is a link between these two things. Mm-hmm. And that's why I try to reflect the connectivity between these levels, mm-hmm. but based on the experience. And then, of course, we are just contributing to the debate.
So the open access model, I'm a huge fan of it. Love it. And I think that's the way the world should work. Open access, open source, open everything. But what is on the other side of that? So, I did this nice book for Globethics, and we had, excellent download numbers. It was like academic blockbuster, in my opinion. I was very, very pleased with it. But how do you actually know and measure that this is having an impact? I know my book was downloaded 14,000 times, which was great. Very, very pleased with that. But how do I know? Is it being taken up in classes? Sometimes people reach out to me and said that they have it, but there has to be a way for Globethics to know, okay, this is beyond the numbers. What are the stories that are on the other side of this? Because I'm sure it's great for your donors, for example, to say, okay, we have 200,000 participants and 3 million downloads and so on and so on. But where can you actually see this kind of structural change? Where can you see this impact in ways that the numbers don't necessarily tell you? This is what I'm curious about.
Yeah, that's an important topic which comes to also the criteria of quality and quality measurement. And I have a double view of it. Today is a world of facts and figures and measurements. So if we want to show to donors or to decision makers the impact, we need to measure impact. And I'm not against it, but I'm not against it because that forces us to look carefully what is the impact. Not only the outcome, but the impact. So that is the world we are living in, and if you cannot show the impact, then you're out of the game.
Right.
But I'm at the same time and even increasingly skeptical, because the life, when we say navigating life as our motto, life is more than facts and figures. And education even more. And one key element is the time factor. We can measure impact in education not in a 3-year cycle. You have children, we have grandchildren, and we all know that life, I don't want to measure the hours that I invest in my children by the notes they bring from school only. That's one factor. But the impact of education is a lifelong impact. And sometimes, and I can say better now, in my age than I could do it 40 years ago, is that what remains from education you may see only 30 years later. And this cycle of 3 years project reporting or yearly project report, please show me the impact of the book that you read yesterday, is stupid. the impact of a book that somebody reads may be visible only 20 years later or 30 years later. And that is why we need to revise I am a bit sharp on that, our narrow-minded view of impact measurement. Mm-hmm. That may work in the stock market, or certainly works, but even there, I have my questions. It may work in your sales figures, but when it comes to education, we need a much more holistic view of we don't know, but we believe and we hope and we do our best to have a positive impact in the soul of people, in the minds of people. That sounds a bit soft and a bit against the mainstream of today. Mm-hmm. But I think it leads even to a spiritual dimension or a philosophical dimension. Philosophers and spiritual people, they know that impact measurement is not straightforward in hard figures. Mm-hmm. And that's also why we speak not only about quantity, but about quality. And that's why we come up with a method of storytelling. Mm-hmm. Say, we cannot only say how many people read a book. That is not yet the impact, of course. But now, how do we measure the value of even of a word? You know, I sometimes get emails saying, oh, by the way, 15 years ago, you mentioned a sentence I never forgot at the conference. Yeah. And I said, wow, what an impact. A sentence I said half-consciously, mm-hmm. and the person picked it up and never forgot it for 15 years. Mm-hmm. But how do I measure this impact? Mm-hmm. I'm just happy that there is an impact. Mm-hmm. And maybe I make a bracket or a side remark on, if we look at the New Testament parable of the seeds, you know, the farmer sow seeds, sow seeds, yeah. And some fall on the stone and die, and some fall on fruitful soil, and others become tree, and of course you have your expectation, but there are so many factors. The sun is coming, a flood is coming, so it's you have expectations, but and the same with children. I think we need a more humane approach, and everybody who raises children knows about it. Mm-hmm. We never know. We all hope that life is successful and our children will have a decent life and so on, and then suddenly you have a child, it was not in my family, but in a neighbor's family, where a 15-year-old girl kills herself. You say, what happens? What did I wrong? What was wrong? And life is life, and navigating life means we have to constantly be alert on, and so that is more my picture of measuring impact. That is a constant alert in navigating and find ways. We have an obstacle, we have a chance, we have, and we try to adapt.